Here I was again, crying, sitting in my closet and pouring out my feelings because I was tired of annoying my friends with my incessant rants. I needed to talk about everything that was going on in my head, and I was tired of writing everything down in my journal. What was supposed to just be a video of me talking about everything that I was feeling ended up with me crying my eyes out. Don't worry, I'll save you guys from watching those parts because I'm an ugly crier. So you may be asking, what happened these past couple of weeks? Or I guess months? Well, to keep it as brief as I can, I was going through this very intense period of self-doubt and constantly questioning my self-worth. I had fallen into this very toxic routine that included a lot of moments of overthinking. Then I started losing interest and passion in the things that I originally cared about. Cooking, documentaries, editing, and filming. All the things that usually spark joy seemed to matter less and less. I was in this rut that seemed to last a lot longer than usual. My mind was preoccupied with other situations that created a shadow on the things I used to enjoy. I was just completely neglecting all of my other responsibilities. When you're in quarantine, it gives you lots of time to think. Maybe just a little too much time. Then this is when I realized I didn't take a year off for this. I didn't take a year off just to mope around and be unhappy. I didn't take a year off just to cry over things I couldn't control. I had lost sight of myself and what I was doing. I had to reevaluate my priorities and what I wanted in life. Number 1, I realized I was unhappy. Number 2, why was I unhappy? Number 3, what could I do to change this? And for number 4, I knew I had to make changes in my life. I did not even realize that I was in a rut for the longest time and that I wasn't consistently myself because I kept on distracting myself with so many different things. And it wasn't until I had a wake-up call and I realized, hey, things haven't been the same for a while. And it took weeks upon weeks of just self-introspection and self-reflecting and just a lot of moments where I would just kind of sit there and start questioning a bunch of stuff, and I realized there's a lot of things that I have to unpack here. There's a lot of mental baggage that I've kind of ignored for the longest time, and they've just been collecting dust because I wasn't willing to address or unpack anything because I just kept putting it off to the side. And then I realized it's about time that I do this, because if I don't do it now, it could really be detrimental to me further down the road. I realized that I was coasting, and that was something that had been on my mind for the longest time, but I just did not want to admit it to myself, because when you start admitting things and you start coming to terms, it makes it all the more real. Because before, when it's just stuck in your head, it's just a thought, you know, it may or may not be true, but the moment that you admit it to yourself, it just becomes reality. The thought of that is just terrifying because you realize like, oh, that is a lot to unpack. You just come to terms with all of your faults, and that's one of the scariest things that you can do, is just admitting where you've gone wrong and all the things that you have to fix. It's really difficult for a lot of people to do, including myself. But the thing is, I realized that I would rather just come to terms with the things that I'm facing so I can stop lying to myself and everyone around me. If I'm not accepting the truth and what I'm actually going through, I'm essentially just lying to myself and everyone around me, which is the exact opposite of what I want. It would be so easy for me to just tell you guys and just lie and say, oh yes, my life is perfect, things are going great, amazing. I'm definitely not stressed at all, but that is the furthest from the truth. And so that's why I think it's the funniest thing whenever I see comments from people that are like, you seem like your life is so put together, you're so productive, I wish I could be like you. But that's the furthest from the truth. But I honestly don't blame you guys, because that's literally the only things that I show on this channel. So obviously if that's all you see, it's what you're gonna associate me with. And that's why I just sort of realized, ugh, like I feel so disconnected from my content because I don't even feel like it's a true representation of myself. Like, yes, I do have moments where I'm productive, of course, otherwise how would I be able to like upload and edit all these videos? But at the same time, you know, I have so many days where I'm doing absolutely nothing and I don't want to do anything. I just feel like everything is falling apart, but I'm able to just kind of put myself together long enough to scrap together some sort of video, and that gives you guys this very false sense of just who I am. I think I just go through periods where I'm being completely authentic and just real with you guys, but then I have other days where I don't want to say anything, and that's perfectly fine too, because no one's really obligated to know about your business. So these past couple of weeks have definitely been a learning experience for me, because I've been readjusting my routine and I've been just trying to figure out what exactly could work for me. And I like to think of this as me going into a new era of my life, and whenever I go through phases like this, I like to think of it as a closed chapter. And so right now we're starting a new chapter in this book of life. Okay, I know that sounds so like cliche and like ugh, but if you think about it, that's really how it is. So we're entering a new chapter right now, and I'm really excited to bring you guys into this journey with me. Now we're actually going to get down to the part of the video that you guys have all been waiting for, and you're probably like, it's probably the only reason why you're here. Let me tell you guys what I've been doing these past couple of weeks to get my life back together. Hopefully you guys don't mind that I changed the location. If anything, the lighting is a little bit better. Not really. The first thing that I want to talk about that I feel really helped me gain a solid footing on where to start in terms of just kind of tackling this rut that I was in, and I feel like it will be a really good starting point for a lot of people that don't really know where to begin, is this course called The Science of Well-Being that's taught by a Yale professor that actually put it up online for free because she realized that a lot of people that actually took this course gained a lot out of it, and they were able to build more productive habits, really figure themselves out, get a job, etc, etc, just a bunch of really positive, uplifting things. So I decided to check it out because I thought, hey, this must be a sign from the universe that I saw this post on Reddit where someone was talking about it. So I started to take the course, and essentially it teaches you about why we feel things that we do. It kind of highlights certain topics that tells you about why we think the way we do, why we are the way we are, and there's a couple tests that you can take that tell you about your personality and your innate traits that you may have not even realized about yourself. Overall, the whole goal of the course is to increase your happiness, kind of help you work on your more productive habits. So I think it's definitely a really good starting point if you're looking for somewhere to begin. So definitely check it out. I will have a link down below. I felt like it really helped me, especially the tests that you take, because it helped me learn more about myself and my strengths and my weaknesses, which I think is really important, and that goes hand in hand with just, you know, being really self-introspective. The second thing that I found to be really helpful for me was finding new sources of inspiration. I felt like for the longest time I've been surrounding myself with the same kind of content and creators, and to me that was another reason why I had stayed so stagnant. I was surrounding myself with familiar stuff. And so I had to kind of expand and look further and see what else the internet and the creative universe had to offer. A couple creators that I recently discovered, even though they've literally been popular for years and I just haven't given them a chance up until now. Cody and Noel. They're known for, you know, their comedy and like entertainment YouTube videos, but to me, I really admire them as content creators. I consistently keep up with like their podcasts and their streams, and the thing is, I specifically seek out content creators that not only make good content, of course that's like a given, but they're also super passionate and just very focused and logical about their creative paths and their career, and they're really insightful, and the way they look at their craft, it just gives it a whole different meaning, and to me that's really inspiring. I've been following like a lot of creators lately that just seem to make videos for the sake of making videos, and they didn't really attach any other meaning to it, and the things that I was watching kind of reflected on my channel. I decided to finally pick up this book that I've had for the longest time by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic, and I highly recommend this book to any individual out there that's pursuing any sort of creative endeavor, because I consider it to be like my creative Bible. I honestly do feel like it's life-changing in the way that it makes you aware that you're not alone in the kind of thoughts that you have when it comes to creative anxiety and just how to approach your work, how to look at it. The thing is, I like to pick up this book and reread certain sections whenever I'm feeling down about like my art, my work, my creative content, and it honestly re-inspires me every single time. I've highlighted so many paragraphs, so many sentences that I just look back on every now and then, and it literally just fills me with a new profound sense of like meaning, which I know sounds really crazy and like insane. Wait, I just got ahead of myself, but basically the book is just telling you about how to not be afraid when it comes to pursuing your creative endeavors, and it highlights like all of these anxieties that a lot of artists may have out there, and I think it's just so worth the read. I cannot recommend it enough, okay? I will also have a link down below. Okay, number 3 actually kind of ties into something that I learned while reading A Big Magic. So during one of the chapters, Elizabeth talks about how when you're in a creative rut and you stop kind of doing the medium that you're kind of, I don't know, good at, the worst thing that you could possibly do is to stop doing things altogether. So she talks about how a lot of people tend to be drawn to another medium of art where they're not really necessarily good at, but there's no pressure to do well in, and you're really just vibing, and you're just a beginner, and you're just learning, and there's no pressure to do well, because a lot of the times people get into ruts or they're just unhappy with what they're doing because they've reached this level of seniority, I guess you could say, or like a level of what they're expected to create. So there's a lot of unspoken pressure, and then it takes a toll on you, and then that really takes a toll on your art. I guess one really good example was the fact that I haven't been feeling 100% confident with my content creation and just my videos in general, and in turn that has made me feel just really uninspired altogether. And so what I've been doing, and I've realized that I've been unconsciously doing this for the longest time, I didn't even realize up until I read that paragraph, and I was like, wait, this sounds really familiar. I've been channeling all of my creative energy into cooking and baking, and cooking and baking is definitely considered a form of art, and I've realized that I have so much fun doing that because I'm allowed to fail. I'm allowed to not be amazing at it, and no one's gonna say anything because I'm not known as someone that's good at cooking or baking, and I'm just exploring like all these different things that I could do with it. And it's okay to not have the best looking meal, it's okay to fail at baking, and there's no pressure, and it makes it so much fun. While I was just kind of releasing all my stress and all the pressure cooking and baking, it made me kind of like reignite this passion for like content creation. Basically the takeaway from this is that if you're in some sort of rut, channel that energy into some other direction or just area where you feel like there's way less pressure. You're just doing it because you enjoy it and there's nothing else, and that could possibly lead you in a positive direction. Number 4, another thing that I realized that really helped me just kind of progress my whole getting out of this rut and figuring out where I wanted things to go was to reconnect with my friends, because it's so easy for me to not speak to anyone for a good week and not even realize, and it doesn't really affect me until way later, and then I'm like, oh wait, I didn't reply back to their text messages and it's been a good 2 weeks now. What is wrong with me? But then again, there's nothing wrong with also just not responding to messages right away if you're not mentally there. Okay, honestly, doesn't even just have to be reconnecting in terms of human connections. It can literally just be your old journal entries. It can be your old videos that you've made, old drawings, just whatever it may be that really just reminds you of your original intentions and your original purpose of why you're doing the things that you're doing, if you feel like you've lost sight of that. Number 5 kind of connects with 4, I guess, but this is to find your original purpose. So a lot of people set out on this journey and they have intentions of going somewhere, but along the way, when things get really difficult or when things fall into this sort of routine, I guess, like with me, for example, you start to kind of lose that drive and that creative endeavor, and it makes it a lot more difficult to kind of realize why you're doing the things that you're doing. And when you lose sight of what really sparks that passion, just go down this really long winding road, and it's just so easy for people to like give up or just kind of not make any progress at all because they've honestly lost sight of their original like motivation. Take that time to just time travel a little, figure out and realize like, hey, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Like, what made me set out on this road to begin with? That has personally worked out for me because one of the reasons why I started like content creating was because I had a love for, you know, just making videos and editing in general. It had nothing to do with being an actual content creator. And I think I just got so set in this role of being a content creator and less of simply just loving the videos that I was making that it set me on this whole loop of being uninspired with the things that I was doing. It just felt like I wasn't tapping into like my deepest possible potential. I'm just not putting out like the best possible work out there. And I just sort of realized a long time ago, but I just wasn't willing to admit it to myself, because to say like, hey, you're putting out like, you know, content that's not really the best, like no one wants to really hear that, especially from yourself. I'm taking a year off to follow my passions and figure out what I like to do, and this is what I like to do, but not at this level. I want to improve myself, and I feel like for the longest time I just stopped doing that. I just grew stagnant, and that's not what you want at all. You want to keep on growing as both a person and to keep on, you know, perfecting your craft, even though there's no such thing as ever being close to perfecting any sort of skill, because you're always constantly learning. There's no such thing as mastering a skill because there's always new things to learn. Those are just some of the things that I felt really helped me out in terms of just helping me get out of my rut. Like obviously I still have days where I'm really not being like my best possible self, but that's okay because it's a process. I'm really thankful for you guys, for my viewers out there that have followed me since the very beginning. Thank you for continuing to stick with me throughout all of this. It really means a lot. That's all I can say. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video, and as always, stay safe. Bye.